Per recent reports by Pittsburgh Steelers insiders, it has been said that the Pittsburgh Steelers teammates of George Pickens are sick of his attitude, and also that there may be an internal issue with George Pickens and the offensive game plan. So, all throughout George Pickens' short tenure with the Pittsburgh Steelers thus far through his 3-year career, there's been some type of problem, whether it was with Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph, Mitchell Trubisky, or now Justin Fields. It seems like he's still frustrated and wants the ball and is making it known on the sidelines and through his actions and attitude. Whether it's throwing fits on the sideline, yelling at teammates, yelling at coaches, or is making it known through his eye paint, George Pickens is making it known that he's frustrated, wants the ball. And in the media, Mike DeFabo, Pittsburgh Steelers insider, he went on 93.7 The Fan, and he said this about George Pickens and his antics. He said, and I quote, "I'm not speculating with this. There are players who are like sick of it. That's not me making something up or trying to put myself in these players' shoes. Players have said to me, they kind of are like, come on." So he then elaborates on that quote and he says this: "I think sometimes with the Pickens stuff, you know it's an emotional game. Guys get frustrated. Some of it feels like it's blown out of proportion. But there's also some truth to it. And again, that's where I feel like the line is. When your own teammates are sick of answering questions about it, sick of having to try to uplift you, I think that's where it gets frustrating for some guys." End quote. So obviously, this Steelers insider, Mike DeFabo, who is in the locker room, gets to have access to the locker room, gets access to these players, are saying that these players have come up to him and voiced their frustration about George Pickens and his antics, his attitude, and everything like that. And he says that the players are kind of getting sick of the way George Pickens is acting. So when you look at this story, it's not just an insider coming out and reporting it. It's an insider saying that players on the team has specifically come up to him and said these things about George Pickens. That's his own words. So I'm just reporting this. This is not me making up a story either. This is me reporting what DeFabo said about George Pickens and his antics and everything like that. And when you look at those antics, Mike DeFabo, he further elaborated on it, because if he just left that one part in there saying that the teammates and players of George Pickens are coming up to him saying these stuff, then sure, you could take it with a grain of salt. But he's saying also what they're basically saying, what the players are coming up to him saying they're sick of. And basically, it's trying to uplift George Pickens and trying to always make him feel better and things like that. And they're tired of answering questions about him when the media obviously sees George Pickens' antics. They always ask the players stuff, and I guess the players could get sick of that. So that's what's happening with George Pickens. That's all that. But never mind with that. Let's look at something else. Let's look at another story that Steelers top insider, Mark Kaboly, has said about George Pickens and the issues that's going on with him. Because week after week, we see George Pickens saying he's always open. He put that on his paint on his eyes. And he wants the football. You've seen the sideline antics that DeFabo keeps talking about. And now you see George Pickens and the eye paint and things like that. So Mark Kaboly has said this about George Pickens and him wanting the football. So here's the quote from Mark Kaboly: "You're admitting that there's some sort of issue right there. I mean, if you didn't believe the load management bull, you should believe this. Because they're throwing the ball to a guy with 4.5 minutes left on the field, left on the clock. Now, is that an Arthur Smith call? Or is that a Justin Fields, we're getting you into this? I'm throwing it to you regardless." End quote. So what he's talking about here is when the Pittsburgh Steelers were up big and they could have just ran out the clock, but no, they made specific calls for George Pickens to throw him the ball like 4 straight times. Is this to make him feel better? Is this because he's been complaining about not getting the ball, so they're just throwing him the ball to make him feel happy, make him feel like he's involved in the game and everything like that? That's what Mark Kaboly's saying. And he's saying that there's an issue there because you're basically just proving to everyone that you're forcing the ball because he wants the ball. You could have just ran out the clock, easily won the game, move over to the next game. But no, you're throwing it with 4 minutes left to George Pickens when you're already up by like 20 points. So Mark Kaboly thinks that leads and that shows that there's a bigger issue in Pittsburgh with George Pickens. And he also said he does not believe the load management thing that Pittsburgh Steelers coach Mike Tomlin has said, where George Pickens isn't playing a lot of snaps because they're trying to load manage him just like a defense lineman, where they expect better production if he's playing less offensive snaps. So last week he played like 30 less snaps than what he's used to. And this week he has played 69% of his snaps, playing 45 of 67 offensive snaps against the Raiders per initial PFF report. So his snaps did go up this week compared to last week, but still not playing for 22 offensive snaps. That's not a good sign, and the Pittsburgh Steelers should not be doing that. And whether it's his antics or whatever, whether it's benching George Pickens for certain plays, that should not be happening. He's your best player, and even though Mike DeFabo, Marco Bowler is saying there's a bigger issue, me personally, I still believe the teammates, players, everyone is rallying around George Pickens and love having him on this team. Whether that's in the locker room or on the field, they love George Pickens and what he provides to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And me personally, I don't care about all the antics. He's doing it in the love of the game. He wants to win. If the Steelers are winning, there's not going to be a big issue. You've seen last week, he wasn't getting that much targets. And even though Marco Bowler said that they're throwing the ball with 4 minutes left, he was still playing big time, even though he was not getting the ball as much. And there was no complaining. When the Steelers are winning, there's no antics. But you see the previous 2 weeks when the Steelers losing, he feels as though him getting the ball can help the team. So he wants to win every game. And if he is the reason why they could win, he wants to be the reason why they win. So if they're winning without him, he's fine with it. But if they're losing without using him, there's going to be a problem. And that's the way it should be. He wants to win football games. He just went on ESPN not too long ago basically saying the big thing with him is many people think he's selfish. Many people think he's lazy in route running. But he cannot be in the NFL, getting past all these defensive backs with being lazy on his route running. So how is he lazy putting up over 1,000 yards receiving, especially this early in his career? How is he lazy in route running if he's making all these amazing catches? Also, how is he a selfish teammate if he wants to win? That's what he wants to do. His main thing is winning. And that's what he did at Georgia, winning a national championship. And that's what he's trying to do with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, the thumbnail of this video says, the players, do they hate George Pickens with question mark? Well, I believe they don't hate him. I believe Mike DeFabo. I can't speak on if the players are actually coming up to him saying it, because he said that they are. He's a trusted Steelers insider. He's saying that they're saying it. They're saying that they're sick of it. So sure, that could be true, because maybe you are sick of the media asking you questions about the guy repeatedly when you have nothing to do with it. So sure, you could be sick of it, but George Pickens at the end of the day is the best receiver on this team, the best offensive player on this team, and he has shown it week in and week out for the last 2.5 years, seasons that he's been on the Steelers. So George Pickens, sure, many people are saying that he has maturity issues. Me personally, I don't believe so. I believe he just wants to win the game. Sure, there's some antics that you would not want to see, but in all, it is for the love of the game. It's to win football games and make your team better. That's all it is, and that's where I stand with George Pickens, even though Marco Bowler and Mike DeFabo saying that there's inside issues in the building with teammates, coaches, players, kind of forcing George Pickens the ball, or just don't like his antics and are sick of him. Sure, that's their thoughts. Those are my thoughts, and there could be two separate ones. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments below on this. Do you believe that the players are sick of George Pickens, like Mike DeFabo has said that the players are coming up to him saying they don't like his antics and are sick of him? Also, how do you feel Marco Bowler saying that there's a problem with forcing George Pickens the ball, and that just proves it, even though you're trying to load manage him? If you're really load managing him, why is he in the game late in the game and not earlier on in the game? Or is that just to feed him the ball and make him feel better? So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And also, make sure you subscribe to the channel, turn notifications for everything Pittsburgh Steelers news, updates, highlights, analysis, reports, everything like that. I cover everything Steelers, whether that's breaking down highlights, film, and reacting to it after each game, which I've done every game this NFL season. It's on the channel. Go ahead and check it out. Or just covering Steelers news. So if you want this one spot for Pittsburgh Steelers everything. This is a spot for you, especially if you want to watch it, listen to it, and not have to read it. So with that being said, like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications. Until next time, I'll see you guys all later. I'm out. Peace.